Where in the world is my tape measure? I hate this tool. This is why we have 12 of these in the shop. Holy smokes. Hey everybody, welcome to the shop. My name is Drew, and in today's video, I'm gonna teach you how to build this drawer box and why we build these ones instead of some others that we've done in the past. So let's go ahead and get into it. So the first thing we need to do is make sure that we have the correct material. We use 1/2" white melamine drawer box material, which is already edge banded on both sides of it, which makes it a lot quicker for us. So we're going to go ahead and rip all of our material down to the correct height of the drawer boxes, and I'll show you how we find that height in the next clip. I need drawer boxes at 4.5 inches high and 9 inches high. Because my material is 15 inches wide, I can get both sides out of one piece. But I don't want to adjust my table saw guide back and forth and back and forth. So we're gonna cut all of my 4.5 inches first, set these off to the side, and come back and cut the 9 inches in a little bit. So the way we find the height of a drawer box is pretty simple. You take the total height of the drawer face and you subtract 2.5 inches. So now that we have all the 4.5 inches pieces stripped to size, when you are going to strip your other size, make sure that you do not cut off your edge banded side. So we're going to run the edge band against the fence and cut off the side that's already been cut. I've done that in the past. It kind of stinks when you have to redo it. So let's go ahead and do these 9-inch ones. Now that we have all of our pieces ripped to the right size, we need to cut them to all the right lengths. The way we cut the sides is really simple. All we do is cut them to the length that our drawer slides are. So we're gonna have 18-inch drawers and 21-inch drawers for these ones. The front and the back, however, are a little bit more complicated. What you have to do is take 5/8 off of the inside measurements of the cabinet, and then from that, subtract 7/8 to account for the sides. That gives you the total dimensions of your front and back panels. Here's my scrap piece for all my measurements. Gotta have it. Then a quick little tip, I already have this piece cut to 18 inches, so instead of measuring again with my tape measure, I can just use this piece as a guide, make sure it's flush on one end, go ahead, score your line, cut it, saves you some time. Now for simplicity's sake, I always try to keep my sides and front and back separate, so all my 18 and 21-inch pieces will go on one side, all my other random parts will go on the other side. So just to keep it easy, sides, front and backs. So now that we have all of our pieces cut to the right size, we need to put a rabbet in all of the side panels. The way we find the correct height of the blade is we use a 1/2-inch piece of drawer slide material to get it to the same height, and the rabbet depth needs to be a 1/16 of an inch. So the way we do that is we're gonna go ahead and take out our sacrificial fence, slide that on, and then we're going to put it right at about 1/16, so the blade is taking off a 1/16 of material. Now, if you do not have a depth gauge, you can use a ruler, you can use can't think of the name and I'm a woodworker, this thing, which is a tape measure, to help you get it. It doesn't need to be perfect, but it should be pretty close. So we're gonna use a scrap piece to try to find that depth. So we want our number to read 0.065. Obviously, that is way too small. So we're gonna move our table saw out a little bit, run it through again. Get in there. All right. 0.07 is 5 thousandths of an inch too big. That's okay. It's so minimal, you'll never know. Now, like I said, you can use what this thing is called, a tape measure, to measure your depth. So if you want to see how close you get, here is the cut piece. If you actually butt it up against another piece, you can see that gap. It's about a 1/16 of an inch. So that's another way to do it if you don't have one of these depth finders. So now that we have all of our stuff set up to the right size, what I need to do is run all of our side panels through vertically so that when the time comes, we can butt in the sides just like so. Flip it over. Now I want you to know there are a ton of different ways to make drawer boxes, and this is just the way that we've done it for a really long time, and it works for us. But if you know a different way that might be more efficient, please leave it in the comments below, because I'd love to know what you do. So now that we have all of our rabbets cut on our sides, we can now run our groove for our bottom panel, and we're gonna run the groove through all of our pieces. So what we're gonna do is take off our sacrificial fence. We are then going to set our groove to 1/2 inch deep. So the easiest way to find 1/2 inch, take your 1/2 inch drawer slide, put it up against the fence, put your fence in where it's touching your blade, and now you have a 1/2 inch from the fence to the blade, which will give you a 1/2 inch groove from the bottom. But now we have to set the blade to a 1/4 inch deep. So to do that, if you have a piece of 1/4 inch material, which is what our drawer boxes are set to, that is what we're going to use to measure it. Or if you want to take out this tool again, your tape measure, you can get it set to a 1/4 inch deep. I'm gonna do just like I did when I did the rabbet measurement, set it up against the blade, go ahead and lower that blade to a 1/4 inch. You're now set up to run all of your pieces through. Now before you waste time, because time is money, you are not going to run half of your fronts or backs through, because you are actually gonna cut those to a different length, and I'll show you what I mean in a little bit. So we're gonna run all of our sides through and half of our front and backs through. The last thing before we get cutting, you wanna make sure that you put your groove on the correct side of your sides. So with that rabbet cut, you want the groove to be on the same side as that rabbet cut, and you also don't wanna cut the groove close to the top of the box. You want it at the bottom. So make sure that your melamine finished side is facing up and your rabbet cuts are facing down. Now a drawer box is made of 2 big components, the drawer box itself and the drawer face. Now if you want to see how to make doors and drawer faces, my last video goes into depth as to how we do it here in the shop. And so right after this one's finished, I'll have a link in the description below and a video at the end that you can click into to see how we make our doors and drawer faces. Now because we are using a 1/4 inch piece for our bottom, we need to cut the groove to a 1/4 inch wide. Now this is a 1/8 inch blade, so we need to reset our fence so that our groove can be cut to a 1/4 inch. And the easiest way to do that is by taking one of the pieces that you just cut, lay it up against the fence. We're going to try to get our groove so it's just lined up with our blade. Then when we run it through again, that 1/8 inch blade times 2 is gonna give us a 1/4 inch. So we're gonna test it really quick and then use our scrap piece over there to see if it works. There we go. No adjustments needed. Nice. So now we're gonna run all of our pieces through one last time, and then I'll show you what we do to those extra sides over there. Now for the sides that we did not cut, what we are going to do is we are actually going to raise our saw blade to cut off the bottom of these pieces. The reason being is these are going to be our back sides, and the back side panel will actually be small enough where the bottom will sit over it. And the way to do that is by cutting off the piece that we just dadoed out. So we're actually going to completely rip off about a 1/2 inch to 7/8 of an inch off of this. And all you need to do is just raise your saw blade after you have that groove cut. Now that we have all of our pieces cut, our sides and our backs and fronts, we can now move on to the final part, which is cutting our bottom panel and assembling the box. Another quick tip before we cut those panels is to have your sides and your back and front all in one spot. because there's been days where I connect the wrong parts because I don't have the right box set up. So I'm gonna go through, and for these 6 boxes, I'm gonna stack all of them so that we have our 6 drawer boxes all organized. So here are our 2 sides with the rabbets. We've got our front with the groove and our back. The best way to measure your panel is, where in the world is my tape measure? Holy smokes. The easiest way to measure your panel is to take the length of your sides, which these are 18 inches, and subtract 1/4 of an inch. So for this 18-inch piece, the side width of our panel is gonna be 17 3/4. And for the other side of your panel, you're going to take the length of the front and the back. So those are 14 1/16, and you're gonna add 1/4 onto that. So we're gonna cut one side to 17 3/4, and then the other side is gonna be 14 5/16. So let's go ahead and cut it to length. Now I know 99% of you do not have a sliding table saw, but that's okay because you can get these panels cut on a regular table saw. You just need to have some sort of way of keeping the sheet level when you're running it through your own table saw. So one way to do that is we here have a little bit of a guide that we can set off to the side, and then when you run your big sheets through, this is the same level as your table saw, so you're able to get that through. So if you don't have a sliding table saw, you can still do everything you need to on your regular table saw. Now the first thing we want to do is dry fit to make sure that our panel is cut to the correct size before we cut the rest of them. Now remember that piece we cut a little bit shorter? That one slides in right there. I do like the size. I may want to cut the panel just a little bit bigger. You can see I like the fit from front to back with this panel. However, this does not give me much of a depth for the other panel. And so I think I'm going to cut it just a little bit bigger than the 14 5/16. I think I'm gonna go up 1/8 of an inch to 14 7/16. Now all you're gonna need to get this drawer box assembled is things that you should have in your garage. The first is a 3/16 drill bit for piloting holes for screws, a Phillips screwdriver or drill, goes faster. The next is a small little piloting hole for setting the screws in, so an inset, and an 18 gauge pin nailer. So we're gonna go ahead and add a little bit of glue to the grooves, set in our panel, find our side with the groove, add a little bit of glue to the panel corner. You gotta add glue to your rabbets. Set that in. If you hold it off the edge of your workbench, take your 18 gauge pin nailer and just shoot 2 little screws right in the bottom. Now that's going to be secured while you work on the rest of it. Add some glue to this panel here, add some glue to this rabbet. Pin that down. And now for the final part that goes in is your back piece. Add some glue to the rabbet there. Add glue to this rabbet here. Pop that in. Go ahead, pin the top. And flip it over without it falling apart. So now that you have all the sides pinned together, we are now going to attach this back piece. For the back, you're gonna go ahead and take your pilot hole, and we're gonna just pilot 3 to 4 holes in the back, depending on the size. Because this is a pretty thin box, we're just gonna put 3 screws. So right. And then once you have those, you can take your 3/16 drill bit, pilot that right down. And now, take an inch Phillips screw, and we are going to secure that bottom piece to our panel. Do not over tighten these, they will go right through because it's only a 1/4 inch panel. And that is your drawer box. Now here in the shop, we use Blum Movemento slides. And so the last thing that we need to do before these are ready to go out to the job site is to attach the undermount clips that attach to the slides and pilot a 9/16 hole in the back for the slide to clip into. So all we're gonna do is put the slides in the front 2 corners, pilot the holes in, and then screw them in with a 5/16 drill. And then these slides, drawer boxes, are ready to go. So that is how we build these drawer boxes here in the shop. Now, why do we do it this way? Well, number one is it is super easy to do and it takes no time at all. I could get all 6 of these drawer boxes done in about an hour, and we sell each drawer box for about $155. Now, not this drawer box for $155. You have to add a faceplate or a drawer face to this drawer. And if you want to see how we build our doors and drawer faces, you can go ahead and click the video right here, because we made that one last time. So once we have all of that assembled, we can get these out in about a day. And they're really sturdy. We have not had one of these break ever. And so as long as you put enough glue, get the pinholes right, and the assembly is correct, you should be good.